Yeah, Tim, you're touching on a time in my life that, I'm very sensitive about. I spent about 3 years with the Scrap Pack training hard. I thought I was part of the team, and, apparently they all just were making fun of me and whatnot. But one of the things I'm not being fair about is, those guys were in their 20s, right? Like, they were acting like high school kids. And why is that? Well, look, they were all college athletes, right? I think Jake and Gil met at San Francisco State for wrestling. They hooked up with Cesar Gracie, and they went right from high school wrestling to college wrestling to being pro sports stars, right? So your maturity doesn't necessarily keep up. Generally, it doesn't, being frank. So, I have to think about that. And there was something else too. Everybody wanted a piece of those guys. I wasn't the only one. I was a lifelong martial artist. I thought I was pretty innocuous. I didn't try to cozy up to them. I didn't try to coach them. I didn't try to do anything. But unfortunately, it didn't matter. Like the fact I didn't do those things. The guys who did try to coach them and do stuff like that were all throwing shade on me all the time. And in fact, Jake's main trainer was a guy named Tarek Azim. Now, I talked about Tarek before. Tarek convinced them all to sort of avoid me and not spar with me. And I thought their excuse was I was dangerous, because I was much more like Toby in those days. Like, I went hard. But in fairness to me, like, I didn't cheap shot people. I didn't like go hard when you were going soft. Like, I went hard and I expected you to go hard. And, Jake knocked me out when he was juiced out of his mind a couple times, and I never held it against him. That was how we sparred coming up. But yeah, it is what it is, man. The whole business thing, Jake did get off the ground. I think Jake's personality is very taciturn. He's not an outgoing, outward kind of guy. He's not an extrovert, right, by any means. And guys like Tarek Azim are. That was his trainer guy that sort of turned him against me, and probably turned him against everybody. I imagine Caesar and all those guys. Not that those guys needed much help. I mean, they always complained about Caesar and talked shit about Caesar too, but that's part of maturity. That's part of growth. I know they're defending themselves too. Everybody's got to make their own way in the world. But yeah, a lot of that stuff we can talk about offline, so to speak. But yeah, it is what it is, man. And I did a video on this recently. There was kind of a joke of a guy named Doug Dickey when I was growing up kickboxing. I was in my early 20s, and he kind of knew the game and everything. And we all kind of made fun of him, and thought of him as older and whatnot. And what I didn't realize is I had become Doug Dickey for the Scrap Pack. I was this joke of a guy. But listen, man, that's life. And what do? You move on, you go on, you keep going. And that's what I've done. If those guys want to have delusions about their time with me, they're more than welcome. But I can tell you this, I gave them as good as I got on every step. And, there were a few times where I had all of them in deep, deep trouble. But look, they don't see that way. I don't care. Everybody read my book, Warrior of the